This video was sponsored by Skillshare. I have a link for you to try them out for free, so hang out until the end. Hey, I made my first ever video in the Store Behind series about 4 years ago now, and we have just reached a very nice milestone. We're at episode 69, so to celebrate that kind of milestone, I decided to take a look at some of my older videos from the series and see whether some of my wildest analyses and predictions, whether those have actually stood the test of time. I think there's a lot we can learn from that, so let's take a look. Okay, so I'll choose 3 videos from my old catalog that I think held up particularly well over time, and then I'll also choose 3 where time has basically proven me wrong. So let's start with the positive ones. Okay, first on my list is a video called Why There Are No New Mobile Operating Systems, which has held up very well, I think. My point in that video was basically that Android and iOS were already so dominant back in 2017 that it was futile to try to beat them at their own game, making devices that looked and felt like traditional smartphones, ran apps that looked like theirs, etc. And since an operating system is basically just a piece of software that sits between a device and apps, the only way to create a competitor would be to change either the device form factor or change the app model. And it seems like I was right. All the Yola, Sailfish, PinePhone, BlackBerry OS, or whatever other projects that tried to out-Android Android have failed to make a meaningful dent, and the one competitor that we have seen emerge was actually KaiOS. KaiOS is a platform that ran on radically different hardware and used web apps instead of regular mobile apps and managed to sell phones in the hundreds of millions. KaiOS didn't play the game that couldn't be won, they changed the game. So good for them and a good prediction for me. Okay, second on my list is episode 5, called Why Stock Android Doesn't Matter, which is also my most disliked video ever. In it, I explain why, even though many enthusiasts swear by stock Android, it is generally bad for the phone companies. So most don't tend to use it, and the ones that do tend to lose. And this is a statement that over time has proven to be really true. The only successful major phone brand that has emerged since that video was Realme, which definitely doesn't use stock Android. Microsoft's Android skin on the Duo obviously doesn't look like stock Android at all. OnePlus has just announced that they are ditching the stock look and feel for their own skin in Oxygen OS 11, and the Pixel line and Nokia, both of which are the poster children for stock Android, have continued to have disappointing sales results. You could argue that, hey, finally Asus has adopted stock Android, which I dearly love and I'm very happy about, but they are just insignificantly tiny as well. We can obviously not assign all of the failures of the new Nokia brand and the Pixel line just to stock Android, I know, but there is an overarching theme here that is a little hard to ignore. What many geeks think of as the ultimate selling point is in reality not a convincing selling point to the average consumer at all, and stock Android limits the ability of phone makers to differentiate themselves, which they all desperately want to do in a sea of similar Android phones. On top of that, it also limits their ability to make money from bundled services and also occasionally ads, which since the rise of Xiaomi and Realme and the like has almost become an industry standard. So like it or not, I think Android skins are just here to stay. And related to that is the third video on my success list called Why the Google Pixel is a Bad Idea. It's my second most disliked video ever, but I think 4 years later, everything I said in that video really holds up. Much like with stock Android, my point was not that the phones themselves would be bad, but rather that releasing the Pixel line would be a bad business decision for Google specifically. I said the Pixel wouldn't sell well because making, marketing, and selling hardware is fundamentally not in Google's DNA, and indeed Pixel sales continue to be disappointing, especially internationally, and key senior members have started leaving the program probably out of frustration. I said the company would actually lose money on the Pixel, and while Google doesn't quite break out the Pixel sales from the rest of their earnings just yet, every indication shows that they probably are losing money. I said Google would start to keep its key innovations exclusive to the Pixel instead of pushing them out throughout the whole Android ecosystem, and indeed they have kept their camera software magic, their on-device AI, their custom chips and more fully or partially exclusive instead of lifting everyone in the ecosystem up. And I said that they'd actually make some of their manufacturing partners angry because they went from being a supplier to them to suddenly becoming a competitor, and companies don't like that. And I can't say exactly who, but I can tell you that off the record, after I made that video, I had multiple manufacturers come up to me and directly tell me that yes, indeed, they are very salty and they will deprioritize adding Google features and promoting Google features on their OS as a sort of retaliation. So yeah, we can discuss whether Pixel phones themselves are any good or not. I think there's plenty of other YouTubers who do that much better than me. But 4 years later, it seems pretty clear to me that this is an unsuccessful business that has actually held back progress with Android and Google Assistant and more. So that's exactly what I predicted, so clap on my back, I guess. Okay, enough of the self-congratulation, let's move on to my actual fails. And my first fail will be the first video I've ever made in the Story Behind series. This one is called Does Windows Phone Have a Future? And I basically speculated that Windows 10 Mobile would finally become the big reboot Microsoft needed, and that the company would take a year or two to polish it up from its initial buggy state and make a really big push for it after. And that just didn't happen, like not at all. I do think that Windows 10 Mobile was, at least in spirit, kind of the holy grail for Microsoft. With it, Microsoft finally achieved what it always wanted, which is to properly share the core parts of the operating system between all of its devices and to let the same apps run across all of those devices as well. I think if they made the universal Windows platform happen maybe 2-3 years earlier and in a less buggy state, then they could have really made a big push for it and it would have brought them over the app gap potentially. But I guess they were too late and Nadella was probably just right on this. This universal approach came way too late. Hardware partners and consumers were already disillusioned, and making it work well would have taken so much time and money that the company was better off axing Windows Phone and focusing on other projects like Azure and making their mobile apps on Android and iOS really good instead. So while I am sad that the universal Windows platform never really got a chance to shine, I guess my prediction was just wrong. Alright, fail number 2 is called European smartphone brands are making a comeback. And yeah, that kind of didn't happen either. I actually don't think I said anything incorrect in the video itself. Of the 5 phone brands that I looked at, I predicted that regional champions like BQ and Wiko would have their asses kicked by Xiaomi and other new entrants, which they did. I predicted that niche brands like Fairphone and Block would remain niche even if they had a legit business, which they do. And I predicted that Nokia would either have to innovate or die, and they seem to have chosen the second path pretty clearly. But the spirit and the overall message is still off in retrospect. While there was a temporary resurgence in European smartphone brands, after the video, BQ was sold to a Vietnamese conglomerate called Vin Group, Wiko and Nokia have been struggling with sales, and Block pivoted away from making phones to focusing only on software. The Fairphone 3 is apparently doing better than expected, but the total cumulative sales of the entire company have only reached 200,000 units by 2019, so they're just small fish as well. There are a few new players like Carbon Mobile from Germany, whose unique selling point is that they have developed ultra-thin and durable carbon fiber composites. I actually had a really fascinating chat with the founder, and if you'd like me to make a full video on Carbon, let me know in the comments. But yeah, they are also just planning to sell in the thousands, not in the millions. In other words, there is sadly no major European smartphone revival, and I just got tricked by essentially a temporary bump. And my third pick will be episode 3. Is the Xiaomi miracle over? Xiaomi famously grew from zero to being the #1 phone maker in China in just 4 years, and then saw sales suddenly falling in 2016 as the entire Chinese phone industry went into panic mode and hit back with all they got. And that's when I made the video. I did actually correctly identify that the 2 keys to Xiaomi's revival would be international expansion, especially to India, and expansion to new product categories like scooters and drones and whatnot, but I was just really skeptical about whether they could pull it off or not. And I was wrong. I thought an online sales model like they had in China wouldn't really work well in India, where very few phones were sold online at that point, but Xiaomi single-handedly converted Indians to buying phones online. They also massively invested into their product portfolio and became hugely successful in India and lately even in Europe, where they recently overtook Huawei for the #3 spot. So Xiaomi proved me completely wrong. Looking back at all of these old videos gives me such nostalgia. All of that hair, the old music, the old logo, all of it. It feels really nice to look back and also to see all the progress over time. One place I think I've made the most progress is actually with thumbnails. I mean, just look at these old ones compared to my new ones. Designing great thumbnails is a difficult and delicate process, and I've recently started watching this Skillshare course by Evan from Polymeter, who I think arguably makes the best thumbnails on YouTube. Each of his thumbnails tells a story, paints a scene, and asks a provocative and clear question, all while being extremely on brand. So I'm learning a lot from him. Skillshare classes are structured and interactive. They let you upload class projects and get a reply from the instructor. And there are courses on everything from design to photography, creative writing, business, UI, UX, you name it. The first 1,000 people to sign up using my link in the description will get 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free. So check it out, sign up, and I'll see you in the next video.